What's going on, guys? So hopefully the audio is going to be a lot better than the other day. I was using a lapel mic and it just was not doing it for me. So this should be a lot better and a lot easier to listen to. If you got through that whole 40-minute video of horrible audio, then I applaud you. You are an American hero. Today we're going to be looking at kind of a follow-up of what we were looking at the other day, but split from the church. Ironically, we're going to see one of those men who was drag queen in the church in this as well, but this is going to be kind of scattered, so you're gonna have to bear with me because the topic itself is pretty scattered. They're pulling a lot of different things together from a lot of different places to try to push this through and to try to make this happen. But we've got an article from the dailymail.co.uk. Marty G. Cummings went to the White House, and if you don't know who that is, we will get there. But Biden vows to protect trans kids and stop criminalizing their sex change doctors in front of drag queens at the White House as he signs a same-sex marriage bill, tears into extreme Supreme Court and callous Republican laws. Biden said signing the same-sex marriage bill was the act of pushing back against all kinds of intolerance. He says this, folks, racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and transphobia, they're all connected. Are they? Are racism and homophobia and transphobia connected? But the antidote is love. The antidote to hate is love, Biden said. This law and the law that defends strike a blow against hate in all its forms. So that's the first really red flag you've got right there. They're having a very hard time with the LGBTQ thing. They're getting a lot of pushback from all across the country. The only places that it's really, really flourishing are places like California, places like New York, and look at the state of those states. They're horrific. They're completely falling apart. It is not good. It's not good. So what they're doing now is they're playing this manipulation tactic. So now homosexual marriage and interracial marriage are being lumped up into the same concept as a manipulation tactic. So that if you vote or if you speak out against the same-sex marriage bill, you are also voting and speaking out against interracial marriage, which makes no sense. The vast majority of America has no problem with interracial marriage. You don't ever hear about that. We have a problem with the institution of marriage crumbling, being spat on. The institution of marriage was between a man and a woman. And then, in ideal situations, having kids. And that is the nuclear family. That's how it's pretty much always been forever. So the problem isn't really have anything to do with racism or with interracial marriage. So what they had to do to try to get this pushed through is to lump those two things together so that if you speak out against this, same-sex marriage bill, you're at the same time, regardless of whether you like it or not, you are speaking out against interracial marriage as well. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. So if you look over here, the next horrible issue with this whole thing that was going on was this first line up here. We got DeSantis said he would be filing a complaint after a video showed a child in the audience of a Florida drag brunch in which one of the queens was exposing naked but clearly fake large breasts. Lovely. That's lovely. And they're saying that this is not happening, that children are never around this, children have nothing to do with it. Now, it did later in the article, it did say that she tried to cover herself up afterward, but you're in a place that a child could be, and you're nude. You're naked with large fake breasts. Is that conducive to society? Is that something we should be proud of? I don't think so. Not in my opinion. The problem at the core of why this got through it all is the fact that Republicans are weak. At the top specifically, Republicans are absolutely weak. And they don't hold Christian values. They don't hold firm to their faith. They will bend and they will break in any situation if they get enough cultural pressure. And we see that time and time again. And that's exactly what happened here. The Respect for Marriage Act officially repeals the defense of the Marriage Act, the Clinton-era legislation that banned federal recognition of same-sex marriage. It requires the federal government to recognize same-sex marriage and interracial marriages, codifying parts of blah, 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 blah. The House of Representatives bill that passed in July with the help of 47 Republicans. 47. The bill had more difficulty getting through the Senate, where 60 votes were needed for cloture. But eventually, of course, we had 12 Republicans that signed on. So that's a systemic issue within the Republican end of things, where they're just completely dropping the ball. They're always succumbing to the pressure of the left, eventually, in most cases. Obviously not always, but in most cases. And this was a really, really good example of that happening. That's exactly what we saw happen. But this is not the worst. I mean, it's bad, but it's not the worst of it. You came here for the drag stuff, so we're going to get into the drag stuff. We had Marty G. Cummings, who is a drag performer. She's got a poster. I'm just going to read it so you're not going to be able to see it.
We see hope.
Oh, geez. Here we go. Marty G. Cummings on Instagram said this. This week, our nation made history with the signing of the Respect for Marriage Act, which ensures protections for LGBTQ and interracial couples. See, they're lumping that together, even though they have nothing to do with each other. As someone who has dedicated their life to advocating for equality and acceptance for the LGBTQ people, I was honored to be included in the celebration at the White House. My invitation, however, came with an onslaught of right-wing rhetoric and extremism that targeted myself and other attendees. Various activists and groups, including Fox News, throw them under the bus, took an old tweet that was in reply to a night out with friends at a piano bar where I used the queer colloquialism, kids, in reference to my group of friends. That tweet was taken completely out of context and used to stoke the flames of the baseless and inaccurate talking points that the right-wing media and pundits have been using against drag artists, including the false claims that we are groomers and a threat to children. This dangerous and disheartening barrage of rhetoric against me continues as the House Oversight Committee holds a hearing today on the rise of anti-LGBTQ violence and extremism, including the role that dangerous rhetoric, specifically on social media, we'll come back to that, plays in driving harm and violence. We must continue to stand against these attacks and in support of all LGBTQIA people. I am sickened and saddened that anti-LGBTQ activists would take something out of context to fuel their own false, fake, and desperate narrative. I will continue to spread the message of love and acceptance and will continue to use my platform to support our community. So he meant whatever. Mentioned social media. And we're headed that way. For a long time, I mean, you've probably heard about what's going on with Twitter. Conservatives on Twitter have been hushed and shadow banned and dropped down in the algorithm for years. And only since Musk has been back has a lot of that gone away. But they're still being hushed and shoved down in the algorithm in YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. It's known. It's not wondered. It's not an accusation. It's a fact. Conservative voices, conservative ideas, conservative theories, they are all completely dampered by the algorithm, in the algorithm. They're shoved down hard. So this is a slight, just little comment, but leads to furthering that direction of hushing conservatives because we are dangerous. We're dangerous. I have a huge problem with that. Most conservatives are Christian, not all. But Christian or conservatism comes from Christian values. Our values are not dangerous. We want peace. We want a nuclear family. We want a church body that is healthy. We want children to grow up in healthy households with healthy parents in healthy communities who are raised in faith, which has very healthy ethics. That's what we want. But they've been pushing this ridiculous that we're the dangerous ones while they're dancing naked in front of children, but we're the dangerous ones. It saddened my heart that LGBTQ activists would take something I said out of context to fuel their own false, fake, and desperate narrative. Now, what she is talking about, I don't mean to be rude with that. I just genuinely don't understand. The quote that was taken out of context was this. The kids are out to sing and suck D. I'm not going to say the word. You can use your imagination. The kids are out to sing and suck D. The claims from the left are that these are older kids or of age kids. That's why he said that earlier in that first thing that I read, was that it was taken out of context. It was about my group of adult friends. I don't know why you would call your group of adult friends kids. But even if that is true, I guess, it's poor wording. I think it's fair to say that. It's very poor wording. Now, you can also find another video of him, this drag queen, on YouTube that I'm not comfortable playing. But if you search in YouTube for Marty G. Cummings, D-I-C-K song, you'll be able to find it. It's very disturbing. In no way is it appropriate. I don't even think for adults. Honestly, I don't see any benefit. I don't see how in the hell you can argue that this is healthy. And beyond that, how you can try to paint conservatives as the ones who are dangerous and threatening. They are tearing the country apart. They're tearing the church apart. And now the White House is being flamboyant, bringing this in to, I guess, the governmentally sacred space. You know, it's a professional place, and now it's a joke. If you look at some of these pictures, it's a joke. I think they actually have some here. Oh, wait, while we're here. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Lit up. There's other photos too of just completely lit up in these bright colors. But since we're here, look at this. This is actually from the video we did the other day. So on the right there is Brita Filter. And if you remember, she was in a big church with all the beautiful art. It looked like a Catholic church in New York. But that's her right there, Brita Filter. So she was present. And then this right here on the left is Marty G. Cummings. So this is the one that said kids are out to sing and suck X. The other thing from Marty Cummings. She performs in whatever. I don't really get it. I don't get, are drag queens, do they identify as men, but they're just drag queens? Or are drag queens men who identify as women who just like to dress flamboyantly? I genuinely don't understand that. That's why I'm not trying to misgender them. I'm not trying to be rude. I just genuinely don't understand. But he, she, whatever, no disrespect, performs in front of children. There's a tweet from last year. This is a tweet from him. I'm quoting. Logan was one of the kids who came out to celebrate Pride at Queen's Botanical Garden. He was so excited and wants to perform with us next year. The kid appeared to be, end quote. The kid appeared to be about 5. Give some wiggle room. Say the kid's 7. Still, even if the kid is 7, even if the kid is 10, even if the kid is 12, even if the kid is 15, even if the kid is 17, but then you can start to argue a little bit. But still, that is the law. That is grooming. I don't, in the quote that I read from Cummings when she was being invited to the White House, it is grooming. He made a comment about being called groomers. Well, that's what you're doing. By definition, and that tweet is such a great example, he was so excited and wanted to perform with us next year. Why? Because you are grooming him. Because we're allowing kids around these activities, and it registers in their brain as something, oh, this is normal. This is okay. My parents brought me here. There's no danger here. They're not coherent thoughts, but these are things, some probably are, older kids, but they're subconscious thoughts that build in a child's mind, and then it shapes them, and then that is the adult that they become. That is grooming. I'm sorry you don't like the definition. I'm sorry, it's not your favorite, but that's exactly what grooming is. That's what it is by definition. If you scroll down a little bit, here we go. Both Cummings and Filter have performed for young audiences, with Cummings routinely putting on kids' shows in progressives communities like Princetown, Massachusetts. Filter, who we saw the other day in the church, dancing around with no pants on. Filter got some pushback for a performance she delivered at a Pride chapel in April. Maybe that's the one that we watched. I don't know. As she was asked to perform her drag show and then talked about queerness with a group of students from the Progressive Independent Episcopal School in the East Village. If you don't know what Episcopal is, Google it. Infiltration of the church. Some conservative students said that they were uncomfortable with the dancing and twerking in a church setting. Well, gee, shocker. Conservative kids being uncomfortable with a man dressed provocatively as a woman dancing around in a church or out of a church, it doesn't really matter. They're uncomfortable. I would be so uncomfortable. I would not know what to do with myself, and I'm an adult. And I've been around and I've seen some stuff and I've been through some stuff, and I still would not know what to do with myself. I would be so uncomfortable. Again, like I said the other day, I'm fairly liberal. If you are a man and you feel the need to dress in women's clothes, I don't think it's healthy. I think something's going on. I think maybe there's help to be had. I have problems too. I need help on things too. But I don't really care to judge you unless you bring that type of stuff out of the privacy of your own home. And then more so when you bring that out of the privacy of your own home and then bring it around children. And then it's not just me being uncomfortable, it's me being angry because it's sick and it's grooming, whether you like that word being tossed around or not. That's what it is. It's what it is. It's 100% what it is. Moving on. One of the weirdest things about all of this was Biden tried to tie this heretical behavior into religion itself. And I actually saw that Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire, he touched on this. And the minute I heard Biden say this, I was like, who is right? Well, you listen to it first. Listen, here you go.
We're all created equal. We're all entitled to what Abraham Lincoln called an open field and a fair chance. You know, there's nothing more decent, more dignified, more American that we're about what we're doing here today. It's about
Sorry. We're at the wrong spot. Here you go.
Every single American, no matter who you are or who you love. This shouldn't be about conservative or liberal, red or blue. No, this is about realizing the promise of the Declaration of Independence, a promise rooted in a sacred and secular beliefs, a promise that we're all created equal. We're all entitled to what Abraham Lincoln.
Did anybody catch it? Did you catch it? What do you say? Sacred and secular. I got you covered. Here you go. Let's start here. Secular. The definition of secular. Denoting attitudes, activities, or other things that have no religious or spiritual basis. Okay? What was the other word he said? Sacred. A sacred secular. Sacred, meaning connected to God or the gods, or dedicated to a religious purpose, and so deserving veneration. So let's rewind the tape one more time, real quick. Listen to this.
Every single American, no matter who you are or who you love. This shouldn't be about conservative or liberal, red or blue. No, this is about realizing the promise of the Declaration of Independence, a promise rooted in a sacred and secular belief.
They're opposite things. This is the incoherency to all of this. None of it is rational. None of it makes any sense. And it's astonishing that they let him say that. Like, who's writing it, first of all, because it's not him. And then who's proofreading it? Because they should have caught that. They're opposites. They're literally opposite words. They can't, it's a nonsensical sentence. It's a sentence that literally does not make any sense whatsoever. Now, there's another thing. When I did end up listening to some of the Michael Knowles show today, and there was another part of it that he was talking, basically what he was talking about is he told a story about the Daily Wire booking a reservation at a restaurant and then them getting kicked out of the reservation. So they received a call. They told them, don't come in. You're out to harm me and my staff. And he said it in response to Biden had made a comment about you can't get married in the morning and then kicked out of a restaurant at night just because you're gay. And so Michael Knowles told that story and, said Christians get kicked out of places too. So the Daily Wire got kicked out of a place due to their beliefs. And, really it's due to the fact that they're Republicans and Democrats have this thing that we're, dangerous in some way, in some regard. But then he went on to kind of overstate things. And he ended up saying that Christians are the only people who are basically discriminated against in America. And I get the point he was trying to make, because it does seem that things have kind of flipped, and then if you are straight or if you have faith, any faith really, but specifically Christian faith, people don't really say much about Muslims or anything like that. It's primarily Christian faith. So really, if you're a white Christian nowadays, it's not really a good thing. You catch a lot of flack. And that was kind of his point. But I felt like to go so far as to say that Christians are the only ones really in America who get persecuted. I think it's overstating, because I don't think it's quite fair. And I think that's something that, we need to be honest about. Racism does exist. There are racist acts that happen against, people of color in America in 2022. It's something that happens. So I think using that extreme language, I think just isn't healthy. And I don't think it's helpful to the cause. Because then there will be people, even me, who, loves the Daily Wire. I'm a yearly subscriber. I listen to them very frequently. It turns me off because it's just not true. And it's being dramatic. It's trying to make a point so hard that you're beginning to kind of do what the left does and use absolutes, when an absolute isn't an appropriate use in that time. And it wasn't. So I love him. I'm a big fan. It's just something I thought I'd kind of point out, because I think it's something that we need to be very careful of moving forward with all of this stuff, like with the drag queen stuff and with the LGBTQ things. That's why, like, LGBTQ in and of itself, everybody collectively who's a part of that community, do I think they're bad? Do I think they're groomers? No. There are a lot of conservatives who say yes. I don't agree with that. I don't think it's true. I know some gay people. I know some people who are in the LGBTQ community. Do I agree at all with their lifestyle? No. Do I agree at all with, what they believe about the world, what they believe about society, what they believe about marriage? No. But are they groomers? No. No. And I've had conversations with them. They don't agree with a lot of what's happening within the community. So there is kind of a sect, even within that community, of people who don't like the kid stuff. They're not about it. They're not about it. And then there's a whole group even called Gays Against Grooming, who are like very upset that the LGBTQ community, that is hard to say, has taken basically this homosexual, LGBTQ, everything has been lumped into one. And then they are basically, because, sorry, my phone's ringing, because they have all been lumped into one. When that group of people does something wrong, like grooming, because primarily it is coming out of that group of people, unfortunately, the people that are a part of that group are lumped in there too. And they don't all believe that. So I think speaking in absolutes is something that we need to be really careful of, because that is what the left does. And we don't want to do that, because it makes you someone that people are not going to want to listen to. You need to be honest about situations and circumstances that are happening. Do not use absolutes unless it's absolute. That's kind of the point that I'm trying to get across. But really, I mean, that's the bulk of it. There were a couple other videos that I could show you, but honestly, I don't want to. It's just very sick. This is a clear representation of the fact that the country is just crumbling. They're doing anything they can to push this stuff through by bringing the race into the picture, and people are having a huge problem with it. But it's hard to speak out against that. And that was the point. So for everybody over the past 2 days who said the drag thing isn't a big deal, it's not in prominent places, we're not doing it around kids, I feel like we've covered pretty much all of those in a short sect here. I will add the source that I got all this from into the description of the video. So if you want to go and read through this yourself, you'll be able to. To the few people that I had conversations with who said that drag queens are not singing and dancing in front of children. Here's a little bit more proof. You saw some 2 days ago. I don't know how you could continue to argue. 2 days ago, that video, there were tons of kids involved in that. And there were tons of drag queens, half naked, dancing around. This is happening. It is real. I do not want to condemn that entire group of people because I don't think it's right. And I do not think they are all groomers. I want to make that very, very clear. But that does not mean that it is not happening. It is happening. We have drag queens at the White House. We have drag queens at the schools. We have drag queens at the church. These are big places. These are huge, meaningful, communal places that include children. Take the White House out if you want to, but at this event, there were kids there. But at schools and churches, they are not the venues for a drag show. You do not strip or dance provocatively in front of children. Otherwise, you are a groomer. Period. I don't care what you do in your house behind closed doors. I don't care what you do with your friends who are also adults, who have functioning brains and who can consent. Go for it. But the minute you try to make this okay around a child, you are disgusting. You are sick, you need help, and you are a pedophile in my opinion. If not, then you just have very poor judgment. Very poor judgment, and you do not care about child's well-being or their mental health. That's really it. This is going to be short. I'm going to go spend the night with my girl. We have a little bit of time that we normally do not have. So I'm going to get off here. But this was just ridiculous. And a lot of people were messaging me over the past day saying that, just that it's not happening. And that what's her face? Marty G. Cummings was not dancing in front of children. And so it's okay she went to the White House. No, she, he, whatever, does dance in front of children. There are videos of it. There are many tweets from him or her talking about it. Remember Logan, the kid who came to celebrate Pride at Queen's Botanical Garden, who wants to perform with them next year because he was groomed to thinking that's okay. So this is happening. I'm sorry that you don't want to admit that, but it is happening. And it's something that needs to be talked about. So I love you guys. I'm not sure when or where or what the next video is going to be on. I'm going to try to get Sola Scriptura done so that we can kind of get that knocked out and get off of this topic for a while, because I feel already after doing this twice very burned out with it. So we'll have to do this periodically. Have a great night.